Good evening and welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs along the live chat while the show is live, and if you'd like to join the debate, there is a link in the info box and currently in the chat. So click on that link and join the show to express your views, currently at least completely unopposed. There are only two rules in the debate hangout. Number one, please do not swear. If you do, you'll be politely asked to stop and then you will be ejected. If you are, you will then be politely asked to only return on the next stream. With that, I will give one last plug to say if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. I'll transition across to my photos while I share the link on Facebook, Twitter and Skype and all the various different social media platforms that I have at my disposal. If you are in the live chat currently, I would encourage you to do exactly the same. So if you can share the link on Facebook and Twitter and all those good places, I'd be very, very grateful. I will periodically come back to plug the show and hopefully invite people to join along with me. My purpose in being here is solely to keep the show running and to make sure that people aren't swearing, not necessarily to state my views on the shape of the earth. If you'd like to see those, simply go through some of the videos and interviews on Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley, my backup channel.
Hi Nathan, hey. Oh, earphones.
Wow, that was quick. How you doing, Jonathan?
I'm alright. I just got to put my earphones in. Sorry, mate.
That's all right. No problem at all. I'll immediately transition across to... There we go. Didn't expect to have a guest so soon. I was about to nip away, make a cup of tea, get myself comfortable.
Interesting conversations yesterday. Just been watching after Dell came on. He then he just did a hangout afterwards, and just let me plug my earphones in.
While you're doing that, I'll be,
as
I say, sharing the show on Twitter and such.
He did a hangout. Oh, sorry.
That's all right. I was just saying I'm just sharing the show on various places while you do that, but you've already done it, so.
Yeah, I've just been watching his hangout that he did afterwards, and Louis was on. They were, to begin with, Marshall was quite concerned that he may have come in and wanting to snipe it, but I don't think that's well, it certainly didn't happen in the video, but that was a good chat. Once again, water, the best. I do. Tel's got a very good point. Water is the best measuring tool, and we've used it for thousands of years. Yeah, need somebody else really to join in.
No, you keep going. You keep telling us about how water... This is the only caveat that people often don't put in, and it's the bit that gets tore to pieces by globeheads. At rest. Water at rest.
Yes, water at rest, definitely. I mean, I was always taught at school, water is always flat at rest and seeks its own level. The Glovers will often say to us, this example of using a glass or a bath or something like that, where you've got, is it called meniscus, or where say if you put what do they call them? Well, if you put a pin in it, say for instance, and the pin will float on the top, that's the surface tension. And then as soon as that surface tension is broken, obviously the pin will fall to the bottom. But I used to do a lot of sailing when I was younger, and I always was questioning my stepfather as into, well, hold on a minute. When we get to the horizon, then if the boats are going over the supposed curvature, and he agreed with me in where I said to him, that is evidence of in the Glover's mind of visible curvature, because the boat is going down. But as we know, it doesn't. The boat, the mast doesn't sort of bend over. It simply goes down and down and down because of our perspective. Um, if you went out to the horizon, so say I left my stepdad at the beach and he's looking out and he can see the horizon, I get in the little boat and I zoom out to where the supposed horizon starts at 2.9 miles for somebody of roughly 6 foot. um, then surely the water should be flowing at that point, because if it's going over a curve, but that's not the case. You get there and you just see the same again, and it's purely because of perspective. I can't understand why um, Globers have an issue with, well, I think it's cognitive dissonance, sorry, that they just won't accept the, the, the things that they were taught at school. It's giving us one thing, teaching us something, and then, um, but it doesn't match reality. Um, and hence why we are having this huge debate, which is, I love it. I absolutely love it. Yes, it's been certainly has been an interesting journey becoming a flat earther. If you'd have ever said to me 2 years ago, oh well, you'll be very confused still in 2 years' time, or you'll be looking at flat Earth, and you'll spend all this time. I as with many people, became a flat earther because I saw in the recommendations box the videos going past saying, flat Earth, and as so many people have the same story, that we just thought, oh, how ridiculous, and let it go on and on and on, and then eventually, I clicked because I was bored and thought, I'll go on there and I'll tell these people about gravity. Gosh, silly people thinking that the Earth is flat. No, simply impossible. And wow, um, I'm so glad that I did. Life makes a lot more sense now. I've got a lot more respect for my fellow man, and I've got a lot more respect for the beautiful earth. I'm not religious. However, I don't believe in evolution. Um, I don't know. I'm is the term agnostic. Yes, I think that's right, isn't it? If you, yeah. So I, I, I believe that there is a creator. But I don't want to go down the religious route. But many religious people will say, well, there's no other explanation. You have to their answer is, well, that it says in the Bible. There you go. That's the truth. And well, as Jaron has said in the past, um, what if as we're told that in the Bible that Satan was cast down from heaven and he became the god of this earth. Well, what's not to say that he didn't write the Bible?
Sorry to interrupt you, Jonathan, but we've been joined by Epistemology for Truth. Right, isn't it?
Superb.
Nathan.
Pleased to have you here.
Thanks.
Hi, nice.
I'm listening to Jonathan talking, and I'm just surprised because I know he's been in the flat Earth for a while now. That he's still.
Yeah.
How long have you been in the flat Earth, Jonathan?
2.5 years.
Okay, well, that's a pretty decent amount of time, and yet it seems, you don't understand what the heliocentric globe Earth model says. Like, for example, you were talking about the sailboat going over the hump and you expect the water to flow, which definitively demonstrates that you don't understand what the globe Earth model states, which is that water will always find its equal potential. And on a sphere, you're always standing on top of the sphere. And
yeah, you're always on top of the ball. That's what they say.
And water is always level, but that isn't the same as flat. It's level in that it's equal potential, because if you draw the force vectors coming out of the center of a sphere, the water will always flow to its lowest potential, to equal potential.
Yeah.
But that doesn't compute with what you're claiming, which is that if you sail to a different part of the Earth, that the water should be flowing from one place to another. It shouldn't, because that other spot is not any higher or lower than the original spot you were at, because it's equidistant from the center of mass of the Earth. So that's kind of a strange thing to say for someone that says that they understand the globe Earth model.
I didn't. Hold on. I didn't say that I understand the globe Earth model. I didn't say that. I said I know a lot about it, but I don't know everything about it.
Well, that's a pretty very basic aspect about it. You would, in order for you to refute something, like if you were a scientist and you wanted to refute some other scientist's research, you would first have to completely understand that scientist's research, and then you would, create experiments or things that you can come up with to say, okay, well, if what this guy says is true, then so and so should happen. We test it; it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I understand. You need to understand the model fully first before you can go around saying something which is different to what
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be the same thing if you're going to argue music or art or something like that, right? Like,
yeah,
not even necessarily science.
It's just I get lost very easily with. I understand what they're saying, about how everything is pulled to the center of the Earth, the core of the Earth, if you like. Well, sorry. But how do we know that there's this molten piece of is it iron that they claim
that's in iron core,
molten iron core? So how do we know that? How
we don't know. We actually don't know. We inference it based on seismic waves that travel through the Earth and measuring their propagation from different sensors on the surface, and seeing how those waves propagate through the Earth. But it's inferenced, right? And then the other thing is, some of this molten Earth comes up through the ground, right, in volcanoes and active, and we can sample that and measure it and say, okay, well, this stuff is coming from within the Earth, and this is, right. If you squeeze an orange and orange juice comes out, you have a pretty good idea of what's in the orange before you cut it open.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's sort of the
well,
inference. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I would agree with you that, you know, the inner structure of the earth, since man has never gone there and actually looked at it, it can only be inferenced. And we can say, okay, well, we have a model of what's in the earth, and our model makes these predictions, and those predictions come true. But I mean, yeah, maybe one day if we have some crazy laser, you know, drilling technology to actually go down in there.
Yeah. I mean, you do.
But you don't need to know what's inside the earth to know, you know, to be able to, you know, have the heliocentric model be what it is.
Can I add something from the heliocentric model? So you've got this story of Theia, this planet that smashed into Earth at a glancing blow and essentially left Earth with an oversized iron core. Now, from my understanding, it's necessary that Earth has an oversized iron core based on the age of the solar system. So for that extrapolation that you just used in terms of an orange to make sense, you'd have to have this very huge iron core at the centre of Earth. And the way they explain that is by having a secondary planet hitting us. And the interesting part is the debris from that collision is what caused the moon to coalesce in Earth's gravity field, according to the heliocentric system. Now, that's not the only explanation, but the current accepted one.
Hello?
Hello, YouTube. How you doing?
Hello.
Good to
I'm a
have you
flat
here.
earther. Check out my motherfucking data, nigga.
Excellent. You are a flat earther. Superb. I've got another one on. We've got another one on the team.
What's
Yeah,
up, Butte? I haven't seen you in a hangout before.
That's probably all we're going to see from him. But
I'm pretty sure it wasn't Ute, but
yeah, it's just interesting that there are so many inferences, as you put it.
well, I mean, that's how we learn about the world, even as a child, right?
Sure, but that's the nitpicky detail that the flat earthers are latching onto. You know, the same applies to the CERN or the stars. You know, obviously, I'm not landing on the sun and seeing what it really is, so you have to extrapolate.
Right. But there's a lot of things like that, you know, like radio waves, right? We're, as human beings, we're completely incapable of detecting radio waves in any way using our five senses, right? But we've developed other techniques in order to not only detect, but utilize them, you know, in our day-to-day life. But that's something that exists that you have no way of detecting with any of your five senses.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean, one of the things in audio technology
Well, I mean, I get that's like microwaves. Yeah, you could feel it cooking your right. Like you have high enough energy radio waves. Yeah, I mean,
well, even things
gamma
that you
radiation
can't
is
perceive.
a radio wave. It's a high, you know, it's a high energy electromagnetic wave. So
Sure.
so yeah, I mean, you could see the effects of that with that. But we're talking like, you know, if we're talking about like, you know, day-to-day radio at the frequencies and amplitudes that we're talking about, you have no way of detecting them, but we know that they're there. And we have to develop other ways to inference their existence because we can't see them, smell them, touch them, feel them, taste them, you know.
I mean,
I don't think there's anything invalid about, you know.
Well, I'm not saying you're not valid, but I'm just saying that there's examples of that I've come across in my career when I was in hi-fi, where they'd be selling these things called super tweeters that were operating. Obviously, it's in a completely different frequency range, and up until the point that these were manufactured, it was understood, you know, categorically understood that you had a 20 to 20k hearing range, and that was it. You know, you couldn't hear anything above it, you couldn't hear anything below it. Subsonic frequencies were understood to be felt, but that was about it. That was the range that it went, and it was understood that beyond that you couldn't hear. And then this introduction of these super tweeters that operated at massively higher frequencies than you could, as you put it, detect, were put into the systems, and lo and behold, they sounded more realistic. Now, I've no way of verbalizing what I heard because I didn't hear anything. There was no more sound that was detectable according to what the physics says. But the reality was somewhat different, is all I'm trying to say. So you give it 10 years, it might be the case that they say, well, actually, there's this section of our brain that we don't understand yet that can detect them or is affected by them. So it might not be the case that you can detect them in real time and say, there we go, I've got radio 4 now. Obviously that's not going to be the case. But it might be the case that they say, well, look, here's a long-term effect that they are causing to the cells of a human, and that is very much detectable. You just can't, as you put it, detect it with your 5 senses in real time.
Are you referring to I think you have said it before, Nathan, that when you were in hi-fi, that they developed some, I think it's the same sort of thing what you're talking about, where you couldn't hear what frequency was being given out, but it made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and this was to do with different hertz or
yeah, it was almost everything. They're trying to push everything in the electronics outside of the audible range. That was the whole point of most things. The thing I sold predominantly was what is considered to be a cheap technology in most terms. It's cheap to use a high frequency or switch mode power supply, but what that does is switch much, much higher frequencies than a transformer would switch at. And the problem with that is that a transformer is audible. You can hear it, basically. You can literally hear a mains transformer. You can hear mains, believe it or not. But pushing those frequencies outside of the audible range, i.e. 20 to 20, would be what would give you better performance because it wasn't being interfered with. But I assume that's what you're talking about. But yeah, it's a similar sort of thing. That's why I piped up, just because it's one of the very few things I actually know something about. But yeah.
With the super tweeters, Nathan, and I actually used to compete in car audio for many years in my early 20s and teenage years.
Cool.
With the super tweeters that you're talking about, I don't think they were ever marketed that it's this, super high frequency above human, cat range frequencies that make it sound better. It's just that they're more accurately able to replicate the very high frequencies, the very upper human frequencies. They're more because they're not basically so pushed to the limit at those frequencies. They can more comfortably reproduce those frequencies, which is why you're going to get a more natural sound out of them.
No, incorrect.
That was always my marketing understanding. And with the hi-fi stuff, there's a lot of marketing that has really nothing to do with reality.
There's a lot of voodoo.
It's kind of like wine in a way.
I know what you're saying, and typically I'd agree with you, and it sounds like you know what you're talking about, so I'm not going to out of hand disagree with you, because yes, typically what you're describing is precision tweeters that are just called tweeters, and it might be that in marketing spiel they've been called super tweeters or whatever, uber tweeters, and essentially a tweeter is a tweeter. If it's, depending on how well it's made will depend on the performance. But what I'm describing is something totally different, which was, as I say, just for one of them it was about $1,000, maybe more, it'd be $1,500, ridiculous for one, just phenomenal amount of money for one of these little tiny tweeters, and they were most definitely operating well outside of the human hearing range, or what was quoted to be the human hearing range, and that was you saw their USP. And like most voodoo, almost everybody I worked with, laughed at it and went, yeah. And I think it was made by a proper mainstream brand as well. I think it was Tannoy that actually made it. So it wasn't like some 2-bit company that was making these things. They were, properly researched and developed and marketed and all the rest of it. Anyway, but we sort of laughed away and gave them their demonstration, and we were all floored. We couldn't quite believe the difference. It made it seem more realistic. That's the only way I could describe it, because you weren't hearing any more information, because there wasn't any as far as I could tell. But it's like I say, it's very difficult to verbalise, but detect, I definitely did, but putting it into the 5 senses was far more difficult. The way it was pitched to me by the guy who was repping for the company at the time was that, you're in the same way as you can detect bass frequencies with you're made of mostly water, you're going to vibrate. The same principle applies with the higher end frequencies. Your body will detect them, but you won't necessarily hear them by the tiny little fibrous hairs inside your ear moving around. That's not going to necessarily be how you detect those frequencies. So yeah, you're right. Most of the time it's just marketing wank, but in this instance it wasn't. It was enough to stick in my mind as, wow, that's completely screwed with my perception of the audible frequency. One of the 5 senses has just been completely shattered in my illusions now of what I thought it was and how I thought it worked. specifically about detecting frequencies. And I know that's kind of fallacious because what you're talking about is in the megahertz, and it's ridiculously powerful and totally different in terms of the wavelength that we're talking about. But it is kind of akin, and I'm sure you can hear my wry smile as I say that.
Has anybody heard of something called binaural beats? No?
No, I'd have to Google that. Binaural beats.
Binaural beats. It was there's loads of them on YouTube, and what they do is it was discovered by a German chap in the mid 1800s, and what you hear in one ear is a very low frequency of, it will sound in one ear as dum 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 dum, and in the other ear you'll hear dun 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 dun. But when you put both the headphones in together, your brain, after a couple of minutes, starts to, it doesn't hear dum dum dum, it hears and there are, it's huge on YouTube. You can get ones that help you to sleep, and they're all at different hertz depending on what you're using it for. Some can be used, they claim, for back pain and things like this. I mean, I don't know about it being used in that sense.
I've got a bit on it now. I've just Googled it. So the founder was Henrik Wilhelm Dove. Look, scientist Melinda Maxfield, PhD, conducted research of drum beats in the rituals of ancient cultures and found that generally a steady beat rate of 4.5 seconds. This consistent beat induces a trance-like state for the tribe.
It works. It certainly puts me to sleep. I have it on 0.5 hertz, which is, very, very low. And you just put the headphones in. Obviously everybody's different.
Also impossible.
I had to find the specific one for me, but it worked.
I don't think you can have 0.5 hertz. 1 hertz.
Right, okay.
Even then, there's an interesting story. We supplied amps to the Royal Opera House, right? And they had these big opera singers, and one of the, I can't remember, I'm sure it was one of the banks of their low frequency units kept on blowing, and our amps were fine, but we weren't supplying the drive units, but they kept on blaming the amps, the manufacturer of the drive units, of course. So they were blaming us, so we had to go in and figure out what was actually going wrong with these really low frequency drive units. And what was happening was, as the big fat opera singer comes on stage, they've got all these mics along the edge of the front of the stage, and she has a big dress. And what was happening is, as she was strolling on stage, she's creating a standing wave with her dress at about 3 hertz. Ridiculously low frequency. And the amps, to their credit, were doing it, just doing it until the cones just gave in. But 3 hertz is just like such a massive extension of the cone to recreate it. It's really pushing the limits. And obviously you can't hear it. Nobody in the auditorium would hear it. It's the waft of a dress. It's just not audible. But the PA at the Opera House was trying to reproduce it, and to the most part it was doing it, for a fairly lengthy period of time until, like I say, the cones had eventually given. But yeah, you can't on headphones and anything, anything below 20 hertz. You're lucky to get 20 hertz. My system probably.
Actually, I think he was talking. I think what he was talking about though was the rate at the beat.
Oh right, it's 3 beats per minute. Oh, BPM.
Like
boom, 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 like a heartbeat, right? Whereas half would be 1 beat every 2 seconds.
BPS, I see.
I think that's what he was referring to in the
3 beats per second.
Yeah, sorry, I've misexplained it or whatever. But yes, you are right. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay. So 3 beats per second gets you into a hypnotic trance-like state. Maybe there's some 3 BPM music.
Now I'm not sure whether I've got it right or wrong or whatever. I've got myself in a tiz here.
But presumably you brought it up in relation to something flat earthy.
3
I suppose
beats
it was
per second.
beats per minute.
So,
And we were talking about hertz and detecting frequencies. We were on a flat Earth conversation till I got interested in the hi-fi element and took over completely. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, no, we should. I was just about to say maybe we should go back to flat Earth.
I think that's probably for the best. I'll pipe down.
I,
You two carry on.
Well,
Well, we could talk about something else you mentioned, Jonathan, when you were sailing with your dad. I think it was it with your dad. You said you were sailing.
Yeah.
You were saying that as the boats, descended the horizon, right? Which you're claiming is perspective, but us Globers say is the curvature of the
curve. Yeah.
You were saying that you were surprised that the boat would just be getting cut off from the bottom up rather than tilting away. I think you mentioned something like that.
Yeah,
that expecting to see it tilt, right? Which you think if you're going over the surface of a curved thing, you would be tilting.
Yeah.
How much tilt do you think there is?
A very, very small amount.
It's 1 degree of tilt for every 69 miles that odd. So if we look at a building that's 70 miles away, it would be tilting away from you 1 degree. Tilting away.
Okay.
In other words, if you take a pencil and you hold it in front of you, it's easy to see it tilt to the left or tilt to the right. But if you tilt it towards you or tilt it away from you, it's very hard to detect that because you would just perceive that as being slightly shorter. Right?
Yeah. I see. Yeah. I've got something in my hand at the moment, actually doing. Yeah.
Right. But 1 degree is a very, very tiny amount, and that's over 69 miles. So if where we typically would see it from one sailboat to another sailboat, you might see it descending, 10, 15 miles away where you would, only be seeing the mast or something like that. That's not even 1 degree tilted away from you. That's tilted away from you a fraction of a degree. There's no way you would visually see any tilt.
So how come if these supposed boats are going over the curvature and we stood at the beach and then we can pull the whole boat, what has supposed, we've looked at it with our eyes and it's gone over the curvature, and then we can pull the whole boat back in with a Nikon P900. Okay, it's the flat earthers favorite tool, but it's pretty amazing, and I would say that what do you think of that then? So bringing the whole image back in.
Sorry to interrupt.
Well,
sorry to interrupt just before you answer him. Epistemology for truth. Sorry, we've been joined by Curve Water. Thank you for being here. Just wanted to say a quick hello.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Hi, Curve Water. Hi.
So there's two things going on with that, Jonathan. The first thing is if we're looking at small objects on the horizon, like a small sailboat, then it could still be above the curve, so to speak. So still visible, but it's so far away that the angular resolution makes it very hard to see because, our human eyes, we can only resolve about 1 minute of arc. So what's actually happening is when you're zooming in with your binoculars or a camera or something, it's not actually over the horizon. It's just very small on the horizon. And it's like, oh, okay, I can see it bigger now. But at no point was it obscured. But when we look at really big ships like tanker ships or cruise ships, or big objects that are over the horizon, I have never seen a video, and many flat earthers have made this claim, and I've never seen any video evidence of as they're zooming in, you're seeing more and more of the bottom come into view. All that zooming in does is it makes that object bigger, but I've never, ever seen a video where suddenly you see more of the bottom that you couldn't see before. And many have made
there
the claim,
are hundreds of them on YouTube.
Yeah, but apparently they can't show a single one. And whenever they've been asked to, this even happened in yesterday's Nathan's Hangout.
Yeah,
they made the claim, but there is no video link of showing said phenomenon, and I have never seen such phenomenon demonstrated to me. So that's
obviously I'm on my phone at the minute, so obviously I can't do anything. I can't pull anything up. If you were to type into YouTube,
I've seen videos I've seen videos where the camera is completely zoomed out and you really don't see anything on the horizon because you're below the angular resolution of the camera. So you don't really see much of anything on the horizon. And then as you zoom in, a boat starts coming into view. But never is it the case where half the boat is obstructed by water, and then you keep zooming in and suddenly less and less of the boat becomes obstructed by water.
Yeah, no, I've seen tanker videos. I've seen tanker videos where, you know, you have the at the bow of the ship, you've got the on many tankers they have like that sort of it's like a nose sticking out of the front underneath the sea level, and when you zoom back in, that comes all back in to, you can see the whole hull and everything. You can even see the line that they paint on the side of the boat. I don't know what do they call them, the sea level line. And yeah, there are plenty of videos on there. I mean, whether, I don't know if you're typing the wrong thing in or but yeah, I mean, I've done it myself. I've seen it myself. You know.
Okay, Jonathan, can I ask you a question, please, on that point where you just made that statement about you don't know if he's typing the wrong thing in. Now, what is the right thing, Jonathan? How is anybody supposed to know what it is that you personally believe to be this evidence that you're claiming exists? How are we supposed to go out and search the entirety of the internet to find what you personally think is your evidence? Do you understand?
All right. Well, just
doesn't that make sense?
Yes, it does. Simply
so it's on you to provide.
Yeah. Okay.
Or something for what you believe, right?
Okay. Here's my link then. So type in tankers being brought back into view with a P900. Tumbleweeds.
Hey man, I'm going to do a plug while there's a long, prolonged silence. If you're new to this channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs along the live chat. And if you'd like to join the panel live, there is a link in the info box below this video.
Okay, I've typed that in. I don't know about epistemology. Is there a specific video now that I've done that?
I'm sorry, I haven't got it. Maybe I should write this down for the next debate, because I can't do anything at the minute. I've got nothing to.
Yeah.
I mean,
something to go on. And one of the top videos is Nikon P900 zoom tanker cargo ship on past the horizon. And what we see is it's kind of a blurry video. It looks like there's some fog or something. But what we see is exactly what I said, where it looks like half the ship is under the horizon, and all that's happening is it gets bigger and bigger, but we don't see any more of the ship, right? And like I said yesterday, Red's Rhetoric has a bunch of videos with his P900, which he bought specifically because the Flat Earthers told him to buy it. And he shows the same exact phenomenon. The ships get bigger in the screen, but you don't see any more of them. You don't see the colors and parts of the lower side of the hull. He even has this one ship that has this cool multicolored hull. It's like a Coast Guard ship. And certain colors disappear once it goes over the horizon. And no matter how much you zoom in with that P900, you never see those colors again. Ship just gets bigger.
Okay, well, what I need to do then is I shall have a look and I will write something down. So when we next come on, then I shall have a specific video for you. Yeah.
Let me ask, how you doing? Let me ask epistemology. Have you ever heard of this mirrored water layer effect?
We've been down this road with the mirror water.
No, hang on, man. I asked you a question. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there's various mirages that can occur where you have a differential temperature between the air near the surface of the water and the air,
But it's nothing to do with a
above
direct. It's nothing to do with a direct reflection.
Right. There's just a refractive effect because of the refractive index of the temperature that's different of the air temperature.
So if I brought up
water compared to 10 or 20 feet above the water.
Okay, I understand. So if I brought up some of the work of Wide Awake, for instance, who has done many hours examining this effect and capturing it, that you can see that it's a literal reflective effect. It is not a mirage effect and a result of differential temperatures between air levels. What would you say
Can
then?
we see that?
Where can you see
I
that?
said, cool. Can we see that? And hello, Pete.
Well, you want me to show it? I can show it. No problem. I mean, you
is this the big cruise ship that disappears below the curve?
No. This is
Oh, you don't want to show that one?
Well, no, I was talking about
Okay.
a specific. Well, hang on. Are you open to changing your mind, Curved? I mean, you want to see specific evidence, do you?
You show yours, I'll show mine. Fair enough.
Well, I mean, surely you. Well, I have to go looking for it, but Wide Awake is the channel name, and
Sure.
he captures this phenomena again and again. And I've been talking about this for. I think last year we had the same argument, right?
Of course, you think it's always present. You think it's always present?
Well, of course, it's always present. It just depends on how far you're looking or what sort of contrast is there. I mean, this is simple fact. We know that water is a reflective surface, right? So when you introduce light with water, you're going to get some sort of reflection. And the fact that it can be indicated again and again, and what you're failing to do is to take into account real visual phenomena, and you're attributing it to curvature, which is ridiculous. And it, of course, at this stage. It's like flogging a dead horse.
All right, Pete, let's not go down that road, okay? Let's not put words in each other's mouths.
No, okay. We had this talk last year, but it's fine. I mean, on my own channel, in the meantime, I proved it again and again, even with a recent sunset video from Karen B. She was just recording the sunset over I think it was Myrtle Beach or something like that anyway, and clear as day.
I've seen that.
Yeah, you can see this mirroring layer. It's a literal reflective layer on the water. It's not a mirage effect. It's not because there's such drastic differences between temperatures of air layers or whatever.
You think that's present constantly?
Well, it has to be, doesn't it? Right? It depends on how far you're looking. But if you're looking at something that's only like maybe a mile away, you're not going to see this effect. You will see on a clear water day, you'll see a reflection of the boat next to the boat or whatever you're looking at. You will see a reflection. But yeah, it is a effect. And would you agree, let me ask you a question. Would you agree that if it was an effect, right, and you weren't taking it into consideration, then you would indeed be prone to misdiagnosing what you're seeing? Would you agree with that?
No, because it still won't explain things like what we talked about yesterday with the longest lines of sight. Why are the mountains that are taller but further away well below the mountains that are much shorter but are closer?
Well, I have a perfect example for you. Epistemology, and I have to say you sound remarkably similar to Crow 777, but we'll leave that one there. But yeah, so let's just picture a big truck, right? So it's right next to your face, and imagine a straight flat road right next to your face. That truck is taking up your whole vision, right? 100% of your view. As that truck, let's say, goes to 100-meter mark, or whatever increments you like, 50 meters, 100 meters, 250 meters. You can picture the sort of difference in perspective, and even though we know that the truck remains a similar size, the further away truck is much smaller, right? And it's taken up much less of an aspect of your vision. So can we not just apply the same principle to mountains in the distance?
A better experiment that you can do, which I wish Curved, remember we talked about that flat earther who did that video, is you could set up props on your table that have the same proportions and distance to the proportions and see if it looks the same or if it looks completely different, right? Because the angular change in size would be the same if you follow the same proportions. And what we do see is that unless you make the surface curved, you cannot mimic what this observation shows.
Did you see Phuket Word's recent video? And that's on a flat road, and he indicates this visual interference that's going on. It just completely changes. If you just came in and you didn't see the process that was leading up to his conclusions, you would be lost, you know. So that you see what's going on beforehand, and then you can see these mirroring effects coming into place and how it distorts everything. I suggest you go look at that.
What about the images of ships where there is no apparent mirroring of any kind, where you don't have this temperature differential, and you don't see any type of mirage whatsoever, but there's still obstruction? What is that then, Pete?
Well, I mean, listen, it's like the truck going away from you. It's waves as well. So if you have waves in the foreground and waves in the middle ground and waves in the background, there's going to be a different sense of perspective. And if something is behind, say it's a car behind that truck that we were just thinking about at 100 meters, you won't see that car, right? You won't see that car up to a certain point. If you stretch it further on, you might see that car because you have a different perspective. But this is all it is. It's taken into consideration real life.
You understand that the waves decrease in size with distance, just like any other object, right? So what you're talking about is that, it's the waves that are obstructing, right? So is there like this picture that curve that's showing right now, right? Are those waves that are obstructing the whole Toronto skyline there?
Hey, Nathan, would you be able to present this so that I don't have to keep talking to make it show?
Yeah, no worries.
Hey, thanks.
This is
we have questions about
okay.
this. I'd like to know where the mirror reflection layer is in this image.
Okay, well, can you zoom in, man? You have to zoom right in. Okay. Well, one thing for sure, it's there, but the picture itself is not the best picture you chose. And I think that, would I be right in saying Cara Dunn did that, or Negator?
I don't know who did
last
that.
year.
I don't know who did that.
It's from last year sometime. Cara Dunn, I think, did that.
This has been around a couple years. It's from a website called stupidconspiracies.org is where I find it. I saw this before I was ever even on YouTube arguing flat Earth. It's been around a while. And if you have any doubts about this, anybody can go to Jenna Fredo. You know her, the famous flat earther that Flat Earth Asshole was praising as being such a fantastic globe debunker. Well, yeah, she has a video showing virtually the same thing from Olcott, New York, approximately 39 miles away, where she can only see the tops of a few of the buildings. She dances around claiming victory because she can see a little bit more in total number of buildings than straight globe Earth math predicts without any refraction. So therefore the Earth is flat because the bottom, several hundred, 600 or so feet is obscured by, what is that? That is the surface of the lake.
But hang on,
right?
You can't compare these two pictures here. Look at the picture.
I can. No,
hang on. Look at the picture that's flashing here. Clearly that's taken from a short distance. And then this representation is supposed to be from
it's scaled, Pete. It's scaled.
No, it can't be scaled.
The angular size is the same. They shrunk the picture to where that's why the tower completely lines up proportionally, is because it's scaled to match the angular size of
there's trickery here going on.
No, there's no trickery. Pete, if you don't understand this, you're not qualified to be in this discussion. With all due respect, sir.
Well, what do you need to be qualified to be in this type of discussion, Curved? The ability to be insane,
some common sense, and a grasp of the facts of the issue. You're bringing up derp trying to dodge this. Where's the mirror deflection layer?
Maybe I can ask a question just about some of the distances involved. Is that possible, just to move things on a little bit? So what's the distance between this shot and that tower?
It's about 39 miles. This too is from Olcott, New York. I'm 99% sure.
So what we're witnessing in your estimation between us at 39 miles is curvature blocking this tower. How much,
Right.
in your estimation, do you think we see in the left to right horizon on this picture?
Don't
many
know, don't
miles
care,
would you-
because it should not curve down the way that flat earthers claim that it should, because they don't understand why it should not.
Just a simple
It's
question.
not the same. It's not the same curvature. It's not
Well,
the
that was
same.
It's not what I asked. So what would you estimate is the left to right distance?
What
this
would I
picture.
estimate it to
You
be?
can actually kind of guess that. If we can
Okay.
estimate that about half the tower is cut off, and we know that the CN tower is about,
Well, call it a third of the tower cut off.
yeah, call it, call the part that we can see above the water 800 feet, let's say, right, or 900 feet, right?
Probably.
If we count if we turn them on its side and we count how many of those go from left to right, we can kind of figure out that it would be no more than a couple of miles, I would say. Maybe a mile and a half from left to right, maybe 2
Well,
miles.
Well, if we did that from forward to backward, we'd get about
Really?
2 miles.
So sorry,
anyway.
I just want to get this on there. So the distance between that tower and those buildings on the right, you think that's only a couple of miles?
Oh, less than that, I'm sure.
Yeah, less than that. Yeah, this is
Really?
this is the Toronto skyline, right? These
No, I'm not
buildings aren't
familiar with it.
20
That's why I'm
miles.
asking. So
These buildings are downtown near each other.
okay, fair enough.
You don't have a real wide field of view here.
No, you don't, do you at all? It looks like you have.
Well,
No,
if we're to use the same
really not.
measuring length,
No, it's
then it's
zoomed
only a
in.
mile between
Yeah.
the camera and the tower itself.
I'm
we
sorry.
can't
Could you
gauge it
repeat
like
that, Pete?
You
I
can't.
missed
If
something
we're,
there.
if we're to use the same measuring tool, like for instance, you say it's about 2 miles across the screen. Well, then if we measure from the bottom of the screen up to the horizon point, that'll be about a mile, right? And we know that's not the case. But anyway, the point is, this is all trickery, and it's confused issues.
No,
Why don't you get the best possible, clearest
that's
picture
not
you
fair.
can?
What is the trickery, sir? Please, if you're going to make an accusation like that, please support it. What is the trickery? Is that a fair
Look at
question?
Okay, as I say, you're superimposing this picture that's flashing,
Okay.
which clearly you can see is a much clearer view, over a photograph that's taking at 40 miles. Can't make the comparison.
Pete, I'm not trying to be rude, but can you limit your response to salient points, please?
Okay. We've been through all of this before, Kurt.
You're
and I think
dodging.
even Cara might have done this picture for my benefit.
Who cares if Kara did it? I don't believe she did. This picture has been around longer than Kara's been in YouTube doing any of this. Stop it. Please. Get on
So okay,
point.
in relation to let's move on a bit. In relation to Soundley's photograph, where do we see the curve? Could you point out where we see the curve beginning in Soundley's photograph?
Hey, Pete, where's the mirror reflection layer in this? I'm not talking about Soundley's picture with you right now. This was brought up for you to define where the mirror reflection layer is and why you believe it is and why it obstructs the bottom 600 feet or so of the entirety of the city of Toronto there. That's the point.
That's not. No, that's not the point. That's not
Sorry,
the point.
it
you're
is the
making.
point.
sorry, Pete.
It's my point,
I've got to
Pete.
interrupt
I'm
because we
making
just.
the point.
Sorry
You
to
don't
interrupt
decide what my point
epistemology or curved. Sorry, I just want to get this across to Pete because they've got a legitimate point. There is a flat Earth debunking for this. I'm not going to interject and give it you, but if you don't know what the flat Earth debunking for this is, just concede and we'll move on, and hopefully someone will jump in who will give a concise flat Earth debunking for this. But if you don't know it, don't just say there's trickery afoot. Obviously, there's another secondary image that's been scaled and put on the top, but that's blatantly obvious to anyone who's watching.
Fire away, Nathan. Jump in and give it to me. I mean, this is just presented to me out of the blue, so off you go, yeah?
Pete, you've been
Out of the
shown
blue.
this photo
I don't want
many
to.
times. I've been in many hangouts where you've seen this photo. Kara's shown you this photo. That's why
By
you
his,
keep bringing her up with it.
Right, but
by
I
his own
told-
admission. By his own
I
admission.
told you. No, hang on. I told you she went away and picked the most convenient photograph to make her point. But there's many other photographs that you have to, or you could take into account. You have to explain all circumstances, not just pick the one that's most convenient, right? And again, my mind has to throw back to whenever we were dealing with this last time. So Nathan, now that you have a debunking, spit it out, please. You know.
Well, I mean, I can start you on the road, Pete, if it's something you feel that you may have come across before. but there's a deck that Jaren has described in many a video where he's shown boats going out, and then there's another layer. Now there's I don't know why Curve stopped sharing now, but I can't see it anymore. But there was a line drawn on it, so you can physically see the definition difference between the deck of where the actual horizon would be and this layer of what would be like, I don't know what the word you'd use to describe it, like a false strip of sea that isn't actually there. And you can see this as the boats travel out on, I can't find one of the 1,000 Jaren videos to actually show this, and this is why I don't want to really get involved. But
that's what I'm talking about, man.
But by the same token, hold on, Pete. I'll just get to the end of the explanation.
No, he's not.
Let me just get to the end of the explanation. So the best example of this, which would be reasonably easy to find, was birds physically flying in and out of that layer, literally. So you could see them go in the layer and out of the layer. Again, there's plenty of Rob Skeever videos that explain the lensing and magnification of those buildings at these distances, which have been discussed on previous debates. So, you know, don't put the hands in the air and say I don't mind bringing that up.
Yeah, Nathan, that's exactly what I've been talking about. I call it the mirror water layer, but it's not prevalent in the picture that Curved was showing there, and he's going like, show me that, you know. And,
no, I don't know. I think it is. There's just there's a line that's drawn. If that line was erased, it would be more obvious. You know, but in some ways, the line being there, it's pretty much on, you know, what they are saying is the bottom line of the buildings. But you can also see a distinct, there you go. You can see a distinct colour difference above and below that line. Anyway, I've said more than I should have, Pete. I hope I've helped you on your way.
No, I mean, listen, honestly, that's exactly what I have said. But just in this particular example, it's not visible, right? This mirrored layer, and it's also it's not the sole reason for why we're seeing these buildings cut off. So that's my point. But that's pretty much exactly what I said is a major factor you have to take.
You're telling me that's not the lake all the way up there to the edge, right around here. That's not water all the way up to there. That's not the actual lake. That's your claim. That's not lake up to there. All the way from the photographer all the way up to this point. You're telling me that is not lake, all of it.
Right. No. As you identify the visual horizon line here, right, you will be mistaken.
Because?
Well, again, always and ever, this mirrored water layer sets up.
Where is that here?
And I have a video here to show you as well.
Where is that here? Where is the mirrored... Where is the mirrored water layer here?
Right. Look, it's so compressed here. You're dealing with a much faster distance. You'd have to have the ability to zoom in and then analyze it, and then you'd be able to discover a layer. Find a different picture, Curved, and a clearer picture.
I'll do nothing of the sort. We are dealing with this picture. You're not going to dictate to me.
You said you're going to be Pete. You're welcome to
order me around.
Were you ever in the army?
Get that straight.
No, hang on. Why do we have to deal with this particular picture?
Because this
you can present whatever you like. Pete, there's no rules here.
You cannot deal with.
Okay, zoom in then. Zoom in and let's see if we can identify a mirroring.
What colors do we have to change, Pete? What else do we have to do to first chemo this up for everybody?
No, we don't have to change any colors. You have to look for visual clues.
Where's the mirrored water layer? You've got all the visual clues here you need, son. Hang on. You've got all the visual clues you need.
Okay, so the resolution isn't good enough. So you'll have to find a different picture, Curve.
Resolution is not good enough for what?
But okay, so just roughly, if you were to draw a line across the hard horizon here and move up about 1 millimeter, that would be the real horizon line in this scale here.
What does that do for you, Pete? How does that bring the buildings up from becoming flooded by this wall of water in Toronto?
Can you not speak normally? Can you not just converse without this sergeant major sort of tone in your voice? Is that possible, Curve? You show your face.
It's probably possible.
Well, it's pretty easy to shout behind a screen, you know, in your underwear. But anyway, that's
quit being a fucking dick, Pete.
Yeah.
No swearing, please. No swearing. No need.
Well, okay. Well, is my swearing really worse than what Pete's doing?
He can do what he likes. There's only one rule. Come on. There's literally only one rule.
I'm so terrible, haven't I? I should be shot.
You are. You're being a piece of crap right now, Pete.
Okay, man. Well, I'm going to show you. I'm
You're
going to
just
show
here
you
to
my
play
own.
dodgeball.
No, I'm not saying playing dodgeball. What I'm saying to
You
you is this
are.
picture hasn't got the resolution to give us the ability to identify this mirrored water layer line. Right?
Where
Simple as
it's
that.
not here, Pete. Where do you want to put if you put the mirrored water line anywhere above the lake, you're killing yourself even more. Why don't you get
No,
that?
no,
Why do you not
no,
understand
no.
why people get? Oh, it's by design. Your entire game is to frustrate people with the stupidity that you're here presenting.
I've moved on from this.
You're making a mockery of it.
Far away beyond this, but you haven't. You're back here making the same points that you made last year.
How much do you get paid to make flat earthers look stupid, Pete? To
I
make
do it
all
for
conspiracy
nothing.
theorists look stupid, Pete? How much do you get paid for that?
Hey, listen,
You
I do it
shill
for nothing.
actor? How do you like some of your own medicine there, Pete?
Hang on, man. I don't get paid anything. I do it for nothing, and
I don't get paid anything, so stop.
Right, but why don't you show your face then, man?
I don't want to. I don't have a nose, Pete. I lost my nose in a fishing accident. Okay, you happy?
Yeah, you lost more than that, didn't you? You lost your tackle as well. That's why you
Lost
don't
what?
funny.
Lost
You
what?
lost your tackle.
What the hell is that?
Is that true, Curved? You lost your nose?
No, I'm being facetious, Nathan.
Okay.
It doesn't matter why I don't want to go on camera. The number one reason is because flat earthers are crazy.
Because you're acting apart.
I get enough threats from these idiots. Nobody needs to know who I am. They need to know what I am saying.
What are you saying?
That's
Curve?
related
Can you
though,
bring up
Pete.
a
Sorry
different
to
picture of
interrupt, Pete.
the
That
Toronto
is related
skyline?
though. You've just said, Curve, that you've got threats from flat earthers. I'd love to hear about that.
Well, sure. Well, just in chat and stuff. I thought it was here. Some dude was talking about snapping my neck like the rabbit that I am. He's an Australian dude. I can't remember his name right now. And you got nut jobs like A4 out there running around, and there are crazy people around here. You've always got Twatson and all of his cyber thuggery running around harassing people and trying to get them to react to him so he can say, oh, look how badly they're, treating me and talking to me and everything. All the crap A4 and Twatson did to Jeremy and everything, and the way that they do with Mark Taylor. Ranny's always like threatening to do things like, I want to meet you and give you the grand in person and give you a hug. Oops, I hope I don't fall down and slip and break your back when I'm falling and crap like that. You guys, I mean, the flat earth crowd has got a lot of nut jobs. To screw off. You're going to have to fap to somebody else, Pete. You're not getting me to look at.
And Nathan, will you share my screen just momentarily?
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Thank you. Yeah, you got me? Okay, here we go. Now, this is by Wide Awake, and he has many of these captures. Here we will see, right, what appears to be, this is what you'd identify as the horizon line, the hard water line from a distance. He's zoomed in here, but in actual fact, let me just pause it. We can see a mirroring line, or we can imagine a mirroring line here where everything above is mirroring everything below, and this is your real horizon line, but you can't see it. Right?
Pete,
let
me just before you go on all day about this. Do you realize what that does to your argument? That puts distant objects even farther below the horizon by raising the horizon.
People who don't know what might be going on. He's zoomed in.
Can you give him a chance, Curved? We've had your full explanation. Can we just give Pete a chance just to explain what's on his video, and then once there's a prolonged
keep
pause.
Wasting time. Fine.
Okay, so what you would do from a distance is tend to identify, you just can't see it below the bar, but this hard water as a hard horizon line. There's an actual fact. What's going on, we can't make out any of this visually, but what's going on is there's an invisible horizon line that we can place in the center of this, above and below. We can see it's a mirror, and this is your real horizon line, but we can't make it out because there's no contrast normally, and it's only when this contrast comes into it that we see it. So let me just play it for a few seconds, and it's just a continuous caption, and it's a reality. It's not a continuous mirage that's been sort of presented to us. So this is your horizon line that you'd identify.
Can you make it full screen, please, Pete?
Make it big as that?
Yeah, please.
Okay, and this is what you were talking about, Nathan, and Jeremy was talking about, and this is what I'm talking about as well. So here we go. So I'll just pause it a second. You can see it's not a mirage, it's a solid object, and it's its reflection. So this is the horizon line that we falsely identify as the real horizon line, only because there's no contrast behind it. Everything below the mirroring line across is mirrored, everything. And that means the clouds above here will be mirrored below. It's just there's no contrast. We just view this as the sky. So if you just split this picture in half, can you identify the horizon line here? He would say this. And epistemology would say this line here. I would say you're incorrect. It's up about here somewhere. And then it's when this boat comes in, then you can see it. This is all water here, mirrored water. That's all you can say. It's not an atmospheric effect, Nathan. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not a sort of a mirage effect. Hot air sort of mixing with cold air and you're getting this whatever. No, it's a literal hard reflective surface. And that's a perfect example amongst a myriad of other examples. So I can stop this whenever you want and you can look at it. Wide Awake is his work. And not only is this, here's the thing, here's the final point, and it busts the back of everyone pretty much as I see it. This is in existence with sunsets and sunrises. And it's the sun that rises and appears and disappears behind this mirrored water there in a macro sort of sense. So there you go. That's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? And it's fantastic footage. That's a little cruiser. So just imagine if you want to get a picture of what that might be, just cut it in half. This is the captain's quarters of the boat or something. And maybe I haven't even seen this video. Do we see a picture of what it actually is? Probably do. But that's all I wanted to show you. This is a reality and this is magic. This is magic to you, and it's all manner of mirages if you don't understand what's going on. So that's all I have to say about that.
Well, can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
Okay, moving the horizon where you're claiming it is in this picture, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with you. I'm simply asking you, if it's granted that you are correct.
You've suddenly gone a bit quiet, Curved.
Yeah.
What's that?
You've suddenly gone a bit muted. We can't quite hear what you're saying. It's just a bit quiet. I don't know if you stepped away from your mic or something.
Huh. Let me check something.
That's a beautiful illustration, though. You have what do you have to say about that, Curve?
Am I getting? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Jesus, yes.
The mic auto turned down.
I'll sort that out.
All right. Can we finish up with what I was asking you, Pete, before we move on to something else?
Well, I'd like to hear your impressions of what I had to present there.
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Sure, okay.
If we grant you the mirrored reflection layer and that true horizon, the ocean, the water is actually where you're saying it is,
yeah.
What does that do for your argument about obstruction? You're saying that's actually water up to that point.
Well,
so
I mean,
in the Toronto image that I showed,
right.
Where is?
Yeah. Okay, you have to take each individual capture on its own merits, right? And there's more than just one thing going on. That is a primary factor. Remember that boat I just showed you there is maybe who knows, maybe 5 or 6 miles offshore, something like that. Whereas the buildings in Toronto are 40, 50, 60 miles. So there's
about 39.
What?
About 39.
Well, that particular instance, there's other examples, and there's other examples where you get to see much more of the buildings curved. Will you admit this? There's other examples where you get to see much more of the buildings from further distance.
It's not a typical thing to see. It's anomalous. It's due to atmosphere. It's due to refraction. That's why it's a rarity. That's why it's a rarity, Pete, and that's why it's a mirage, and that's why the buildings are distorted.
Yeah, but if you're saying that, okay, in your own example, if you're saying that this is the reason for this is that the buildings have disappeared behind the curvature of the Earth, and for the intents and purposes of trying to examine this, you are at the very top of the sphere itself. So these are all falling way behind the curvature. So therefore, there should not be any other captures from further away that show more of the buildings. Is that correct? Because how could you?
I just told you, Pete, it's due to refraction.
from a similar height. Yeah.
Due to refraction.
So when we do get to see more of the buildings from further away at a similar height, you're saying that that's anomalous as well, and that's a mirage.
Absolutely anomalous. Yes, you don't go.
So is this not a reflection?
Hold on, I was speaking, and I'd like to finish this very short point. You do not go out there where Joshua Nowicki has taken these images from and get to see this every day, Pete. These are anomalous. It's why it made the news.
How do you know?
Yes.
You know what? How do you know what you're showing here then isn't due to refraction?
What am I showing?
Well, what you were just showing. If you're
Toronto,
saying that under
Toronto?
Yeah, just without most of the buildings cut off.
Pete, that's a ridiculous question. I hope you realize that, but we'll talk about it if you want to do that to yourself.
No,
What do you
I
mean,
don't.
how do I know it's not refraction?
Well, you're on other circumstances, other pictures, you're coming along saying, well, we have to take into consideration refraction.
Sure.
Again, when we can view more of the buildings from a further distance, you're saying that, and it's not just Joshua Nowicki, right? You're saying that then it can be explained by refraction, and we're actually seeing a mirage. We're seeing something that is not there or not real.
Well, it's there, but it's not where we see it. It's raised up in our line of sight.
Right.
Sure.
But there's
It's
no
not
effects going on with the example you picked.
The example I picked in Toronto, for what purpose would you even try to invoke refraction in there? Refraction is something that's going to lift the distant object.
Yeah, but if you're going to say if you're going to describe normal circumstances and abnormal or extra normal circumstances, you have this as your benchmark, this one particular photograph.
No, I can. You want me to pull up the Genofredo bid? Do you distrust Genofredo?
No,
you don't want
it doesn't
that.
matter.
Okay, you don't want that. I see.
No, I mean,
there are multiple sources of that same
other factors to consider. The horizon rises up to eye level, right? And the
horizon does not rise up to eye level. Stop it.
But you have 30 miles of ocean in between. You could have swells affecting that. You have atmospheric conditions as well. So there's lots of different things. It's not just the mirror line.
On Lake Ontario, no, don't try to play swells and waves on Lake Ontario, Pete, with somebody that's up above the water level, looking across 39 miles to Toronto, and the vast majority of the city skyline is buried beneath the horizon. Why aren't they flooded, Pete? Why are they not flooded?
What about other days? What about foggy days, Curved? I mean,
what about foggy days?
When you can't see them at all.
Why don't you face the argument head on instead of turning around and running away and bringing up foggy days?
I'm facing it head on. You're not taking it into consideration.
What's foggy days going to do, Pete? It's going to limit your visibility. What's your point there?
Right. Well, I mean, just thin out that fog. Thin out that fog, and then you have atmospheric conditions that are going to cause all manner of effects, and you have to deal with every photograph on an individual basis, is my point. And that's your go-to picture.
So let's try it. Why don't you try dealing with that photograph on its individual basis? Where was the mirrored reflection line, Pete? And if you want to place it above the water line that's shown in the image, what good is that doing you? If you're saying the water is actually higher in the image.
Hang on, man. There isn't enough resolution. It needs must. As the distance increases, that strip is going to be thinner and thinner, right?
Strip.
There's more distance. As I said, hang on, man. There's more distance.
It's not always there.
Man, hang on. You equated a certain distance across the photograph with 2 miles or whatever.
I did nothing of the sort.
Or epistemology, whatever. If we're trying to judge a distance, obviously we can't use that same scale, because from bottom to top would only be 1 mile. So we have to think in different terms. That mirrored layer is still present, but because of the compression and because of that many miles being squeezed into such a small space, then we're not able to resolve it. Simple as that.
Do you understand that in the field of view of the camera, that the distance between the photographer and the horizon is not going to scale the same way as the objects that are 40 miles away as opposed to a few miles away. So let's not play that again.
No, I understand, but I'm saying we have to sift through these things. And again, it's not visible on the photograph you have. So if you find a different photograph, it might be clearer. Well, I've just shown you a video where it's 6 miles or whatever. It is visible. So how do you explain it?
I don't need to explain. I don't care about it, Pete. It hurts your case. I don't care. That's what you don't get. You're making a point that doesn't even help you. It hurts you. Go for it. Enjoy it. Have it. I don't care. That's what you don't get. That's what makes this so funny. It doesn't help your case. It hurts it, Pete.
My case is already made, man. The Earth is flat and stationary.
That's an assertion, Pete.
It's
Simple
not
as that. That
and then
is an assertion.
I've taken that and moved on leaps and bounds. You know, that's fine. In my own understanding.
Yeah, sure, you have. Of course.
My own understanding. Whereas you seem to be stuck in exactly the same place, having the same argument.
You stumbled over the truth.
The man of infinite patience.
You stumbled over the truth a long time ago and picked yourself up and scurried off as if nothing happened. And you've been on, on a roll tangent left ever since. Pete, you're disconnected from reality. I know telling you that does not help you. It doesn't do any good. You're not going to listen to me. Hopefully somebody in your circle will try to get this through to you that you're out of touch, dude. You're either out of touch or you're a very sick actor. One or the other.
So while these two enter into a barrage of ad hominem attacks, I'm going to encourage anybody who would like to join the live debate to click on the info box below this video. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the live chat. And if you're new to Nathan Oakley 1980, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. I'm going to transition back to these guys so you can hear the rest of the action.
I had a little friendly debate with a young girl. I think she was 7 or 9, but she was making the same point you make in general. Like, well, we live in a ball because of gravity. Because we see pictures
because of gravity. That's nonsense. We don't live on a ball because of gravity.
Do we not?
We don't live on a ball because of gravity. Gravity is not the reason why we say we live on a sphere. No.
It has to be curved. Think about it.
Because
how does the sphere form?
Are you going to go into formation now? That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but how does the sphere form, right?
I'm talking about how do we know the evidence that we have for the sphere.
Off you go.
We do not rely on gravity for the evidence that we have that we live upon a sphere.
I'll tell you your very first starting point, right? And it has to be. Your very first starting point has to be that the Earth is moving. Do you agree?
No. No.
So what's your very first starting point?
The Earth moving is required to refute geocentricity. A stationary globe is I don't even want to put a number value on it, but a very slight possibility at best.
No. So what's your if you're saying your starting point isn't whether we're moving or not, and you deciding that we're moving, what is your starting point?
No, this is what you don't get, Pete. I don't give a rat's ass if we're moving. Not for the discussion of the shape.
We're just talking about gravity, man.
No, you're talking about gravity, Pete. I'm talking about the shape of the Earth.
Right, and what's your starting point?
You're not going to get me off the point, Pete. We're talking about the shape of the Earth. This is a flat Earth debate. Get that?
May I just interject?
Okay, just tell me what. Sorry, Jonathan. Sorry, Jonathan. What's your starting point, curve? Then, did you tell me what your starting point?
No, it's Jonathan's turn to butt in. Go ahead, Jonathan.
All I was going to say was right. If the people on this panel who believe in the globe and they're absolutely adamant that we don't live on a flat surface, can you tell me why you even come to these debates? If you think it's just completely nonsensical, is there something at the back of your mind that niggles
okay, your question's done, dude. Your question's done.
Okay,
please.
all right.
God, you ramble. It's so difficult
all right.
for you to be done.
I'll answer then.
Because a debate needs two sides. Without us here, you don't have a debate, do you? You have an echo chamber. That's not what Nathan wants. Nathan wants a debate here. We're trying to oblige him as best as we can to come here and talk to you people and try to talk some sense into you.
Or if you said it's a sphere, what's your starting point? That's my question.
Starting point.
Right, so you say it's a sphere. I say gravity. Without gravity comes first, right? Because the Earth wouldn't be a sphere without gravity under your theorizing.
Whoa.
So you say gravity didn't come into it. It's a sphere. So what's your starting point? I said surely your starting point is whether the Earth moves or not. So
You're mischaracterizing what I've said. I did not say gravity doesn't come into it.
Okay.
Those words didn't come out of my mouth. So whatever you might be trying to imply in that is what I'm
Well,
arguing about
yeah.
or objecting to.
I said it all begins with
What
gravity.
you're trying to say with that. I know how you operate.
Well, I maintain that it all begins with gravity. According to your theory, it has to all begin with gravity because the Earth wouldn't be a sphere or wouldn't be in existence without gravity and this property of mass.
Now, what's the objection to gravity?
No, so what I'm saying to you is, you say Earth, Earth is a sphere without gravity.
What's the objection to the word gravity?
You're saying Earth is a sphere without gravity. You don't have to invoke gravity into it. And I asked you then, well, how do you know Earth is a sphere? And as I said, it's your first starting point, whether the Earth moves or not. And surely it has to be. And you said it isn't. So how do you know it's a sphere?
I don't need movement to prove the shape of the Earth, Pete.
Okay, how do you do it then?
You can pretend it's geocentric sphere if you want to.
No, but how do you do it from a starting point? What do you start off at? What's the first question you ask?
There's no one necessarily correct place to start. It's a combination of the evidence, of the observations. You people think stuff is reverse engineered to form a globe. The globe is simply formed from observations.
So what would you, in terms of your attempts to understand it, especially amongst all this controversy, what would your starting point be in showing yourself that you live in a sphere? That's all I'm asking you.
Well, we can take one.
It could be NASA. It could be you. You could say to me, well, I know it's a sphere because I've seen pictures that were taken from space. And that would be a perfectly valid reason, right? Because many other people would say the same. But I'm just asking you what
it's invalid. You would say it's invalid. I don't use NASA, Pete. I think you know that. I don't need
No,
NASA.
but I'm saying millions of people would, you know what I mean? But you could come along and say, well, you're wrong. These are fabricated. But that's still a reason for saying you think it's a sphere.
I try not to get involved in the NASA debate. I'm not.
So you don't use
not a big NASA.
You don't use movement.
I don't.
Okay, you don't use gravity. You don't use movement. You don't use NASA. What are the first principles you use to determine that the Earth is a sphere then, Kurt?
I take a look at all of the observations that we can make. One thing you can look at is if you're going to say that the Earth is flat, you have to have a situation where, okay, so it's either the flat Earth is either spinning beneath the sky or the sky is spinning around the flat Earth.
So movement, right? That's what I said.
No. Movement of the Earth. Right. I don't need movement of the Earth. I don't care which way you want to look at it. That's my point.
But you'd say to yourself, one is
moving, spinning around.
Right.
Something is, well, of course something is moving, Pete. That's pretty damned obvious now.
That's all I asked you as your starting point.
No, but okay, then you did not get my point.
You just agreed with me. You
do not need. No, Pete, you're talking about the Earth moving. I don't need the Earth to move. Now, I can show you evidence of the Earth moving, spinning, rotating, and you will deny it. You will laugh at it.
Okay, so what do you need?
You will make up nonsense excuses about it, but the fact remains that no flat earther can refute the Foucault pendulum. And their precession according to hemisphere and latitude.
I can refute that absolutely, Curved, and I have done that.
Go big boy, go.
Yeah, but a nice diversion there. You got yourself out of a hole, but well, listen. Transfer. Okay, let me refute Foucault's pendulum for you. Right, you have to take all the variables into account. If you're trying to get perfect alignment, then you're looking at the impossible because we haven't got those sort of capabilities in terms of engineering. You also have to take into account the medium in which anything is moving. So here's my thought experiment.
What's the medium?
Well, here's my thought experiment to you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
No.
I was just going to give a thought experiment. Transfer the Foucault's pendulum into water, right? So imagine just the pathway as the pendulum. So let's just imagine the pendulum swinging as normal. Imagine the pathway that's cleaved out between the water as the pendulum swings back and forth. And imagine how that water rushes in to fill the gap. You know what I mean? So as the pendulum makes its way back, it will meet interference because of that sort of refilling nature of the path it carved out. So we can see that that would have some sort of an effect. Now, so just bring it back up into the air and understand that air is still a substance, and it is 1,000 times less dense than water, but it still has a density. So you're going to get that as an impeding factor, or at least you have to bear that in mind. And there are two massive things. Also, is the ball connected in the exact center of the pendulum? Is it all engineered precisely, accurately? And you can't do that. You can't guarantee that. Any bias to begin with will be exaggerated, and it's proven again and again, and we're getting many different results. So that's my point about that.
Wow. Okay. Are you done with that nonsense?
Yeah. So anyway, you didn't know about the focal pendulum. Have you ever made one yourself? Right?
Focal
I don't need
the
to
focal
build an
pendulum is
automobile to
powered.
know that they exist, Pete.
The focal
Yeah, but
pendulum is powered.
What?
Yeah, you check it out. All the
Yeah.
focal pendulums that are built today, not the one that old focal used to have years ago, they have motors in order to keep them going.
Okay, some do.
Am I correct in that, Pete?
Big ones, like in displays and everything, so that they can go for a very, very, very long time.
So which one do you refer to then as being?
I'm talking about ones that are made like just hung in stairwells of universities, high schools, that people make themselves and do experiments with.
And there's no other causation.
Why do they process according to their
So what
latitude?
did they hang them from?
Pete,
what did they hang them from? University hallways.
I don't care. They can hang them from the rafters. They can hang them from.
And there's going to be bias, right? If you hang it from a nail.
Pete, you need to understand this. The bias does not demonstrate itself. It's not exhibited due to the fact that they process according to latitude, not according to engineering. Stop it with that. You and YouTube should be in jail for that shit. It's criminally dishonest what you're doing. Stop it. Why?
Because focal pendulum has been proven in every university hallway.
Pete, the engineering is the reason why it does not process at the equator. Air is different at the equator. Air is opposite in the southern hemisphere to cause it to process the opposite direction according to the latitude. Well, open your mind, dude, and think about this and stop trying to just be a denier.
No. You know, well, Curved, that I say we live under a magnetic field, right? You know that.
Yeah, I know you say a lot of things, Pete.
Yeah, well, you know that, right? And you know that I'm sure it's a reality. Any field that's to hold back the waters beyond, right? Equal and opposite forces, and it's an underneath that field will be subject to those forces. And we have to take all of these considerations into account. You're just picking an example and just going with curvature. It's the same with the Soundly images. It looks like curvature. Well, it has to be because it looks like curvature. Whereas you're not taking into account this mirrored water layer. So the point is, you're not taking into account reality.
Pete,
and you come to false conclusions.
Dude, we've been through this.
It is Photoshop because it has to be.
Pete, Soundly.
Shut up, you mug.
Hey, fuck yourself, prick. Now,
language, please. Come on.
Sorry, but I mean that was very uncalled for, Jonathan.
No, it wasn't. You piped up something rude, so.
And I should be in jail. I should be in jail now for for talking about pivot points and how you need to get them exact in order to avoid.
I think you need a 30-year sentence, Pete. Definitely. Yeah.
I reckon, right?
Solitary confinement, mate.
At least bread and water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus. But it's So these are all things that you have to take into consideration, Curved, and you're not doing it. And
so what about these? What about these bubble app business? When people take, we can see that the MIMS devices that are in our phones don't work via gravity. They don't know where down is, so you can calibrate them yourselves. So a good example was Phuket Word went from Thailand to Dubai and then to Ireland. and there was absolutely no difference at all. And there should have been. He even turned the phone off to prove that you can do it yourself. Download a Bubble app, and it remembers where it is. It doesn't just set. It has no idea. I mean, where down is. You have to calibrate it yourself.
Yeah. Oh,
So what?
Jonathan, it's just me and you, and we're flat earthers. That was excellent.
Oh right, oh yeah. I've just noticed that. It's only me and yourself and I. They've all gone now.
Well, that's an excellent experiment. Sure, we know the Earth is flat, right? And each new experiment just serves to confirm it. And all you have are the likes of Curved and his entourage, just providing the same resistance, I suppose, and antagonism at every hand's turn.
They are quite offensive, really, in their tone of voice. It seems as if they're like. I mean, Dale expressed it in rightly so that they tend to try and bully.
Yeah.
They seem to be very upset people in their life genuinely. But hey, I'm not going to get into slacking people off. That's not the point.
No, it's all an act as well for the most part.
Yeah.
And it's sort of twisted on his head as well. We should be the ones who are offended because, after all, we're the ones who are interested in flat Earth inquiry. They have written it off as being ridiculous, obnoxious. So just don't come in.
That's precisely what I said a moment ago. Unless they're, I don't want to bring up the word shill or agents, but unless they are, why the hell would you want to go and do that? That's like me saying to you, right, no, I don't need to give an example. You know exactly what I mean.
You're more than welcome to discuss shills and agents. By the way, it's definitely flat Earth related. It's kind of the conspiratard nonsense that we have to endure in this arena. So I'd love if you talked about it. But before you do, I'm just going to do one quick plug. So if anybody would like to join the panel to contest anything that is being said currently, there is a link in the info box to join the show live. The only thing we'd ask is that as you join the show, please mute your watch page before you join the show. So the page that you are currently watching, to click on the link, that needs to be muted before you join. If you do join, you will only be presented with probably one rule. Please do not swear. If you do, you'll be asked politely not to, and then you'll be ejected. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the live show, and if you're new to Nathan Oakley 1980, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. As I say, there are currently only 2 Flat Earthers on the panel, so if you'd like to contest it, click on the link in the info box to join the show live.
Yeah, agents and shills. Well, it seems to be that because the Flat Earth International Conference that is running in Raleigh, Carolina. Wish I was there. Really do. God, can't wait for our one in the UK. But it seemed to me that just before, as we were coming up to the actual start of it yesterday, that through the weeks beforehand, i.e., ODD. Dipping out over the apps that have been run and this Mark Sargent being Ralph and the dates and all this, it seems to me to be some sort of attack that Globers have maybe made up on the last minute, on the last thing. Well, certainly not just normal Globers that are sat in a room. I'm just a normal bloke, like Nathan's just a normal bloke and you are, but people who are maybe paid to do this or whatever, it seems like they had a last ditch attempt to try and ruin the whole conference, really.
Is it Jonathan? Is it the enemy within Antonio Subarats, of course, an old friend of Nathan's here, and I like the way you use. Feel free to talk about shills and agents and all that conspiratard stuff. What it is, Nathan. This is a reality. There are people put in place, and I think Antonio Subarats, just talking about the conference, he reintroduced all of this drama again, didn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
Porting Mick TV, started talking about Patricia again, brought up the whole transgender stuff back into light. So yeah, I'm pretty happy myself that this is all part and parcel of the greater act, the greater drama. I think maybe a lot of flat earthers will start feeling or seeing the whole orchestrated nature to all of this. I understand your point of view, Jonathan, and every man to his own path. But yeah, I think this was all set up from the get-go. I think Brian Mullen was.
Poor chap.
Hang on. Brian Mullen. I think Brian Mullen was a plan from the get-go, and then he exited stage left in sort of high drama. No one knew what was going on. We're getting updates from Patricia Steer. Brian's okay, and whatever. But the one thing he did before he left, he turned to the Bible. And he also introduced us to Robbie Davidson, who's front and center with the Flat Earth International Conference. And I always knew that Flat Earth has been rolled out. So there's going to be a liaison team, Flat Earthers and the mainstream media. And this is exactly the team you see. No one knows a lot of these people who are organizing it. And yeah, we know a lot of the people who are front and center, Mark Sargent, Patricia Steer. They're all actors. They're all put in there from the very get-go.
Sorry to interrupt you, Pete.
Aware of this as well, and I mean, I know you're not going to comment too much on it. The fact that it's showing itself now, Nathan.
Sorry to interrupt, Pete. Just want to say hello to Mark Taylor. We've been joined by Mark Taylor. Good to have you here. Thank you for being here.
All right.
Hello, Mark.
Hi, Peter, Jonathan.
Hi. Mark, are you a flat earther?
No, definitely not, John.
All right, okay, me.
You
But
sure?
at least you seem a bit more chilled out than the other people that we've had to deal with this evening.
I'm so laid back, I'm nearly dead, Jonathan.
Hey? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Nothing, it's all right.
Your volume is pretty bad there.
Is it? Yeah, I'm on an iPad, so maybe that's why.
Difficult to hear you, man.
I've turned you up as much as I can, Mark. I might turn Pete and Jonathan down a little bit so you're a bit more even.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was on iPad and my earphones weren't plugged in, probably.
Ah, that's Pucker. Yeah, coming through now.
No, I'm not a flat earther, Jonathan, if that was your question.
No. Okay, fair.
You ever consider it, Mark? Did you ever consider it had any merits?
No, to tell you the truth, Pete.
Okay.
I'll admit that when I watched some of the videos, some of the things that was quoted as proof for a flat earth and proof that the globe wasn't real, I looked into, like ships going over the curve, stuff like that. And then when I done my own experiments, I clearly proved that I was wrong. I live by the coast now. I'm from London, but I live by the coast. There's a big cliff near where I live. I set up my telescope and I spent a couple of hours watching ships go over the curve. And
Mark, is there any chance you could just turn your camera off? It's currently on, it just shows a black screen, that's all. If you turn it off, it'll then show your icon.
Who's? Mine?
Yeah, it defaults to on, so although you probably haven't got a
I'm on an
plugged in.
iPad, Nathan. My camera's never on my iPad.
Or if you can just click off, it should just turn it off. So you get your icon.
All we can see is an icon.
Yeah, it is off, Nathan. I've just clicked on it now and it's off.
Oh, weird. It's just a black screen. Oh well, not to worry. Sorry to
see the stars.
Yeah, we can see the stars for once. There's no chemtrails. That's a good one. Chemtrails.
Yeah, what I wanted to ask you too, yeah, why to make your paradigm fit? Why flat Earth? Why do you have to ignore and deny so much? What if your model's true, then surely you shouldn't have to deny so much to make your model work.
I don't subscribe to any model. All I subscribe to is we're flat and level. I don't.
Well, that is a model then, isn't it?
I have the Dodo Earth model, Mark. You know that.
Right. So let's go through what you deny then. So you deny pictures from space, yeah?
Yeah.
You deny the explanation for sunsets, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You deny the two celestial poles.
In terms of terrestrial or
Well, in terms of the explanation given, why people in Australia and the southern hemisphere see the
Sure.
sky go around clockwise, the people in
Yeah.
the northern hemisphere see it go anti-clockwise. You deny that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just so we know. You know, we deny everything.
So that's three out of three so far.
Yeah,
So you
you're-
denied
Yeah,
gravity.
Yeah.
Well, gravity. There is a force there, but it's not a pulling force like gravity is described as.
So what force is it then?
It's a pushing force. We're under a magnetic field. We're in the midst of a magnetic field. Never meant
Yeah.
for it.
So why can't that magnetic field be tested and why can't it be measured then, Pete?
I'm sure it can, and I'm sure it
Well,
is.
why
but
haven't no flat
it's-
earthers done that then? What if we live in a magnetic field
well, it's
and
part-
the reason that the sky turns and the sun stays in the sky and the moon stays in the sky
right?
is a magnetic reason? Why hasn't that been tested?
No. Well, I think someone's talking about dropping magnets, and a magnet, dense magnet will fall slower than a certain equivalent weight. You know, that's not magnetized. But in terms of testing, I don't know. Has it been tested? Of course, the ether was accepted for generations, Mark, according to history, anyway. And then
God,
it was
this is
discarded.
I'm really
proved
sorry
that it was
to
it
interrupt.
wasn't there, wasn't it?
I'm pretty sure both sides concede that Earth has a magnetic field, and it has been.
Yeah, I'm not
thoroughly
denying.
tested.
I'm not denying that. But their explanation for things falling in a magnetic field, they'd be able to test that. Surely, if that was the case, then things would fall different quite significantly the nearer and further away you got from the magnetic field.
And they do.
Right. So what's the measurements then, Pete?
Well, this is why we have the different atmospheric layers, Mark, as we go up. And
No, I'm
the
not
higher you
talking
go
about
up-
that. I'm talking about the
higher you
measurements.
go
You're
up-
saying they fall at different rates. So can you tell me the measurements then?
Well, the higher you go up, the closer you are to a more intense sort of field that is holding back the waters beyond. So you're within this magnetic layer. Everything has been pushed towards the central null point.
Well, so the higher you go up, the faster things will be pushed towards the Earth. Is that what you're saying?
Actually, I imagine it would be. Yeah, it would have to be the case. There's more resistance.
Right.
You'd.
So can you show me a test and an experiment of that then, Pete?
I can actually, but it's on Phuket Word channel, and well, hang on, Mark, hang on. He just put it's just a video. What's so funny about that?
Phuket World, man. Jeez.
Phuket
I thought you meant science, Pete, not the YouTube video. See,
Yeah,
I can link you to loads of articles that you can do the equations yourself that predict what gravity fields are around the Earth,
Mark,
depending what latitude you're on,
because
and depending how far away you are from the Earth. Why can't you do that with me?
Okay, well, don't talk to me about equations because I'd definitely be better at math than you are.
Okay.
So you would just have to refer to,
You'll be definitely better at maths than me, would you?
I say definitely. Yeah.
Why'd you say that, Pete?
Well, I studied maths up until maybe early 20s.
Yes, and on your video you said you had the worst qualification for a pass in Ireland for your degree.
I did.
So that doesn't sound someone competent of maths to me, Pete.
Well, things can sound a lot of ways, right? But there's a different story.
Oh, so incompetent means competent now, does it?
It's not a competent, Mark. I just told you. As regards to the same thing,
I'd say someone who passed a degree with the worst fucking result in Ireland, I'd say that's pretty bad, Pete, wouldn't you?
Well, in terms of that grading system, yes.
So it wasn't you that was wrong; it was the grading system. Okay, Pete.
No, but I did. If you remember, I also mentioned that from early doors, I understood that it was just about regurgitation.
So why did you even take the course then, Pete?
Well, that's a different story, right? That's a different story. Career guidance in Ireland here wasn't the best. But yeah, there's a different story to that. But the point being, it wasn't because, well, that's literally true as well, man.
So why don't you take no blame yourself, Pete? Why is it always it was the marking system, then it was the career advice? Why don't you admit you took a course that you didn't understand and you didn't do very well?
But hang on, it's not about blame, right? I mean, I suppose if we look at a bigger picture here. Well, hang on. If we try to look at a bigger picture, or the bigger picture of our lives, our existence, I mean, we were fed, and you believe it. You believe the historical evolution of Earth. No, you don't. I know you don't, but you claim to believe it. The historical evolution of mankind, and that whole process. That's what you take as a reality. So everything that you're dealing with now, you take as a sort of a part and parcel of an evolutionary process.
I believe tried and tested science, Pete. Yeah, I believe that. I believe that the cleverer people that have gone before me, I believe them. See, I don't project dishonesty onto everyone. I don't project my dishonesty onto everyone.
There we go. I'm going to cut away briefly just to do a very quick plug. So if you are new to this channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. This show will run for approximately 15 more minutes before we end. If you'd like to support this channel, use the super chat that is in the live feed. And if you'd like to join the show, click on the link in the info box below this video. As I say, this show will round out about 15 more minutes, so if you did want to do any last minute trolling or get your globe Earth, cell Earth, flat Earth, whatever Earth views you would like, now is the time to do it. Once that's been done, I'll give another maybe 5-minute warning, and then I'll cut back to the action before rounding out, as I say, in about 15 minutes time.
I read through that. I understand it, and I appreciate that man's genius, and I go with him.
No.
I bet you can't. No, I bet you can't. So how do you know I'm not?
I've never tried. Because you deny his work with no explanation, Pete. All you do is deny it, Pete. You don't give no explanation. You don't give no explanation for gravity. All you do is make up nonsensical rubbish and come on the internet and say it. That's why Flat Earth don't get nowhere. That's why the Flat Earth fucking conference in America now that you all seem to be so proud
No swearing, please.
It's not a joke. It's charged people $100 to tell them what they've been listening to for over a year on YouTube.
Please do not
I agree
swear.
with you. I think it's a joke.
So, sorry, Nathan?
Please don't swear.
I don't think I did swear. What did I say?
I think he said fuck.
Oh, I said joke.
Oh, my apologies.
Well, Pete just swore, so Pete, stop swearing.
Let's not turn this into a conversation about swearing. I'm really sorry if I was wrong.
No, it's okay. No, I didn't think I'm being deliberate. I'm from London. Swearing is second nature to me. I'm deliberately biting my tongue not to swear, Nathan. But where was we? Where was we on denial? We had 5 out of 5 denials, didn't we, so far? Why is that? Why do you have to deny everything?
Let me ask you a question then, Mark. And you know where Newton's starting point was, that the Earth is moving, right? So that's what I deny. If we can't prove that the Earth is moving, then everything that Newton develops on the basis of the Earth being moving is false, right? And
gravity doesn't preclude the Earth being. Gravity don't preclude the Earth being still, Pete.
No, gravity was developed on the basis of the Earth.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Newton didn't say, right, the Earth's moving, ergo gravity. Gravity was decided and postulated on because of the way things fall. He see things the way things fall to Earth, and he wondered why all things tend to fall towards the centre of the Earth. And he postulated that it was gravity, and he tried to explain that with the best way that science knew at the time, which was equations and mathematics.
But he'd already decided that the Earth had a centre mark.
But that's got whether it's got a centre, it's got nothing to do with whether it moves, Pete. Get that out of your head that Newton had to first preclude that the Earth was moving, because he didn't.
No, yes, he did. He decided.
No, he didn't. Just because they knew the Earth was moving, it doesn't mean that was part of the equation, because it's not, Pete.
This is the starting premise, right? If we go back to first principles, we observe a reality. Something seems to be moving. Either there's 3 possibilities: us, the lights in the sky.
Nothing to do with gravity, Pete.
Well, hang on. Us, gravity is all interconnected with it all. If you decide, I'll tell you why.
Still, Pete, and this gravity still be here.
If you decide that you're moving, which is what Newton did, we're moving. The stars are still. Einstein came along and changed that. Everything is moving. Everything is relative to one another. There's no fixity at all. Newton started off. I don't think Newton existed, by the way. Nor did Copernicus. Nor did Tycho Brahe. Nor did Leonardo.
Of course you didn't, Pete. No one exists in your world today, Pete. No one dies. All the stars that have died are all on some fucking mysterious island.
Well, everything exists in your world, right, Mark?
Well, yeah, everything that I believe to be true, yeah.
You never met any liars in your life,
yeah,
right?
Of course I have. Well, now I'm talking to one now, Pete.
Now take that, Jonathan. If you think so, Mark.
No, I've never talked to Jonathan before. I've talked to you before, Pete, and I know that you claim to be smart. So if you're going and putting
I don't
forward
take
these
shit.
ideas. You just did claim you claim to be smart, Pete. So if
How
you're
can I be
smart,
when I got the
so
lowest
if you're
mark?
smart, you obviously know that what you're saying is wrong. So that's a liar, Pete.
But how can I be smart when I got the lowest mark ever in to graduate from the university?
Your words, Pete, not mine. You said you were smart, Pete. I didn't say you were smart. You did. I don't think you're smart, Pete.
Right? When did I say I was smart?
About 20 minutes ago. You
I
said
said,
you're
how did
smarter
you
than me.
know?
You
How do
said
you
no.
know?
You said you were smarter than me, Pete.
No. I said in math. I said in math I
okay.
could do better than you in math.
Right.
So if you're going to bring
All right,
math
then.
in,
So why can't you disprove gravity then, Pete? Why don't you build a vacuum chamber and prove things don't fall at 9.8 meters per second squared? Or why don't you go to the top of a mountain and prove that what they say about gravity, the further you get away from the center of the Earth, then the less gravity has an effect. Why don't you go to the top of a mountain and prove that's wrong, Pete?
yeah, will you wait here until I do those things and I'll get back to you?
Yeah, go on, Pete. To
Okay.
be sure.
I'd have to bring up a few cowboys looking for these parts to build my own vacuum chamber. It might be a while.
I mean, surely, Pete, a man who's done a mechanical engineering course can build a vacuum chamber. Surely. Oh yeah, I forgot you got the words fucking mark, didn't you?
How would you go about that?
What, building a vacuum chamber?
Yeah, how would you go about it? Just say building your own vacuum chamber.
Why don't you go and buy one, Pete? That's already made. There's the gravimeters, like the little vacuum chambers that are connected to a digital readout.
Yeah, but you want to do experiments within it,
Well,
right?
they use that for experiments. They use that to measure gravitational fields around the world, Pete. That's, if you look, you can buy them online. I'm not sure exactly how much they are, but you could buy one of them.
Gravitational fields.
Yeah,
What do you
because the
mean by that?
gravitational field changes depending where on Earth you are.
Really?
Yeah, you can. If you look on the internet, you can see the gravitational map of the Earth. You'll see that it changes all the way over the Earth, depending what latitude you are.
So are you saying that you're saying that acceleration due to gravity isn't 9.81 meters per second universally?
That's at the surface.
So where are
It
these
also
fields?
changes.
So where are these fields existing then?
Well, yeah, around the world, but it also changes
at the
depending
surface.
what latitude. Yeah, at the surface as well, depending what latitude.
So hang on, if these fields vary at the surface, how can the acceleration due to gravity be constant?
Well, it's not constant, is it? If you go up a mountain, it's not the same as it is with the surface, Pete. That's why that when you weigh something like a kilogram weight, that one of these weights that is taken off the main weighting system, that they have that kilogram weight in France, I think it is, or Luxembourg. Something that's took off there that's as precise to a kilogram as you can get it, weighs differently at the surface than when you go to the top of a mountain.
But why is that?
You need because of gravity.
So,
because the further away you get from the center of the Earth, the less the gravity has an effect.
But would it way different in say Ireland here as opposed to, let's say, I don't know, Central Africa?
I don't know exactly. I was saying you have to have a look at the gravitational map, Pete. But depending what latitude you're on, it changes. It changes, yeah, not drastically, but enough to be measured. And then predictions can be made by using the equations that are given to us by science.
Yeah. Maybe this is the ether we're measuring, Mark. What do you think?
The ether, no, the ether's been proved not to exist, Pete.
So if we, how,
you know, Aries failure, you know, that big experiment that the flat earthers love quoting, Aries failure.
That didn't prove the ether didn't exist, man.
Oh, it didn't. So what was the failure part of the exam then, Pete? They did not exam the test. What did that mean then?
You tell me, Mark.
Well, it was about the ether, wasn't it?
Well, how did he show that the ether wasn't?
Because the experiment.
See, you don't even know that. I know what you're doing as well. You're throwing these things into things. But, I mean, you can take some
Will you explain it to me then, Pete? What did the Aries failure do then? What was the experiment, Pete?
You can take, well, it was to see...
What was the experiment then, Pete?
It was to see whether, okay, well, I haven't read, so it would be just...
Oh, so you don't know either then, Pete?
I have read that, actually, haven't I?
So you have read it? You have read it?
Well, okay, briefly, it was to determine whether the Earth was moving or whether the stars were moving.
No.
Or the luminaries were moving.
They already knew the Earth was moving, Pete. The guy that done the fucking experiment knew the
No,
Earth was moving. It was to detect whether
No
light
swearing,
travelled
please.
through the ether, and there was an apparent change.
Right, and he filled up his telescope.
Right, they're going to get talked over.
What you should have expected.
Right, there's 5 minutes left on this broadcast, so if you would like to join to do some last minute trolling, you are more than welcome to do so. Simply click on the link in the info box below this video. If you would like to subscribe, there is obviously a subscribe button below this and a bell notification so you can keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. I'll be rounding out the show in about 5 minutes time, so if you did want to join to do some last minute trolling, now is your opportunity.
Just
I
going to
think
go
Pete's
on.
done enough trolling for everyone, hasn't
I was just going to do a detailed explanation of Aries
he? Well, you can
failures.
just
rather than
Google it then, Pete.
No, that doesn't prove any such
So
thing,
Pete,
Mark.
if I linked you the good Aries failure where it says that he already believed the Earth was moving, would you stop repeating that nonsense that you keep repeating?
Yeah, but that's what he's
I'm a bit confused, right, Pete? Because you say you're a truther, but anyone can Google the Aries failure and find out that they already knew the Earth was
But that's
moving.
where he failed. You
That's
see,
what the experiment. Oh, don't be fucking
He failed.
stupid, Pete. So you're just going to assign any fucking nonsense you like to experiments now, then?
What's your language now, Mark?
Well, what did I say that time? Oh, to be sure.
Right, goodbye, Mark.
You
Can't
went
help
missing
this
for a
time.
while, man. Oh, he's gone now. Oh yeah, you warned him, Nate.
Yeah, there's only one rule. You can troll, you can talk over each other, you can scream at each other. I don't mind. You know, I might interject if you can't hear each other, but that's about it. But just don't swear. It's just that simple. The reason is because typically when people start swearing, they are more triggered. So it's my excuse to say stop swearing rather than please don't become triggered with what Pete's saying, which is technically what's going on. You know, he's becoming more and more agitated. So that's my way of saying don't come agitated without riling up the person more, because it tends to be the case if you say please stop becoming agitated, that makes you more agitated. So I'm not going to say that. It's just a blanket rule, please don't swear. That said, Mark did exceptionally well. Thank you very much for joining the show, Mark Taylor. You will be warmly welcome back on the next show. Yeah. And I may very well actually use this as an opportunity to round out the show here. So with that, I will say a massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you who have joined us in the live chat. Without you, it wouldn't be a show. So thank you very much for being here. As well, a massive thank you to all the people who have joined the live panel. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Dodo.